second.
This is the BAM Podcast with Malcolm Springer.
We are live.
Holy crap.
So, Hugo, how have you been?
That camera's pointed at me.
My old friend.
I'm not old.
Well, you're an old friend of mine. I mean,
yeah, we are old, but it's okay. I'm doing good. You came in here to ask me to help you move, and all of a sudden I'm sitting down here, and it's weird. I've been touched 3 times in a way that I'm not sure was purposeful.
Hey, man, that ass is something. Oh,
I know.
The tater something. Sorry.
It's called the turd cutter.
Beep. Turd cutter. Okay.
Turd pole.
So, man, how's touring? You know, everybody says that you're the most touringest artist in the country.
We are the probably number one, just in sheer numbers, touring rock artist in the country, if not more.
So how many dates is that a year?
So prior to COVID, the little thing that everybody freaked out about, I think that date we were doing like about 235 dates. So and the dates that were
holy shit, man.
The dates in between were travel dates. So I think when I did the math once, kind of chuckling to myself about me not having a life, I was stationary in a home, whether it be mine or someone else's,
right,
28 days. Like,
oh, you actually stopped for 28 days.
Like, I had, so, normally it would be like Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then, there'd be drive dates in between. And then we'd get like one day. But some we do, we had 11 shows in a row many times. But it doesn't matter because to me, it's like this. If you know how to sing properly and at least in a way that doesn't strain you, you can do it every day. It's just like any exertion of any muscle. And that's something that I learned how to do over time. Even though I knew how to sing before, doing it properly is a whole different story. But on top of that, if you have that and you got a good engineer that is making sure that you're not having to fight to hear yourself,
right,
you can do it. And I don't party or do drugs anymore. I've done enough where it's still lasting. It's like a 24-hour leave. It just lasted. But
I know what you mean, man.
Yeah, it was easy though. Like I never stopped drinking or I'm gonna stop partying. I just kind of grew out of it, And there's a lot going on here, and
I can tell when you came in last night. It's funny because
I was exhausted when I came in last night. I was like, yeah, I love you.
I know you're exhausted, man.
Yeah, because everywhere in America it's not a hop, skip, and a jump, especially when you're in this industry. It's like everything is like 5 hours, 10 hours. Like today, I'll drive 10 hours after I'm done here.
I know that. I told Jackson, I said, yeah, we'll work till 2 a.m. and he'll take off.
Yeah.
And you'll probably barely make the bus.
Man, if I'm here, I'm going to do it right. But more importantly, I want to do this with you because I love you. You're a good friend of mine, and also I want to support. Yeah, and I think you're a funny bastard, and I think this is
I think you're a funny bastard too.
Yeah, I mean, but you think I'm funny looking. I think you're funny in a whole different way.
Look! I want to tell you.
I got my guy here helping us out, so he's good.
Well, I want to also the black coffee. Know.
Is that's in there? It tastes just like it,
dude. But it gets you where you need to be.
Yeah, I don't know if it gets me where it needs to be. Just like regret and a whole bunch of feelings. Okay, yeah. I'm sweet. I like things that are sweet. I'm just like, okay, won't take that memory out of my mouth again.
Well, okay. So, we didn't really get any bullet points, but I have so much to ask you because I've heard that the Tantric machine was a fine, well-oiled machine.
We are, first of all, for a band to be a fine, well-oiled machine and be it on the efficiency level that we are, you have to have a few ingredients. First of all, you really have to like the people that you're with.
Right.
And I can honestly say about my guys is that, despite our differences in personality, I think that all of us are really close friends. Right. And more so, I think it's the biggest incarnation of a crew that I don't have to adjust to get along with. So we like to hang out with each other, and ultimately, I truly am selfless with them, and everybody that's ever been in my band. I want the best for all people, even if it doesn't include me in it. That are my friends especially. But so we have this understanding that I'm a ride or die friend, That's first, music second, but we're doing this together. But we also know we're never going to be Elon Musk, and that doesn't matter. That's not
Right.
what I consider wealth. What I consider wealth is what we're doing. Even shit like this. It's like, bro, like somebody's getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning right now, somewhere, and fucking going to work at a job that
They hate.
That's not even a hate. It's they're slaves to this freaking job, and they make a bunch of money, and then they get home, and then they watch some boring show for 2 hours, and then they repeat. That's not life. That is not life. And I could say I'm pretty good at living life.
And I would call you, from working from you as a producer standpoint, one of the most ultimate like musicians too. I mean, for me,
What?
I remember you being just a great musician, and even back in the day when we were a little whacked out. I mean, you were a great leader.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I always say this: you have to do what you love. I don't do anything that I'm not passionate about, and when I'm forced to do that, the Hugo that a lot of people know and love is there. But when you do what you love, I'm a competitive person with myself. I like to have ability and chops, but I like it to be like subtle. So like I get some street cred from my other fellow musicians, be like, oh, I like what you did. That was syncopation,
Right.
But I like to be able to do that in a way. But that's crafting what you do, bro. Like you've always had this raw talent, just like that we have that God gave us, right? But then it takes 20 years to, just like whittle it down, to
Right.
where it is. And I still think that, to me, a lot of people peak as far as like their ability. And to me, I feel like I'm just getting better every year.
See, I feel the same way about myself. It's
Yeah,
like,
I feel like my voice is stronger than it's ever been. And
I told somebody the other day, I said, and I'm definitely not saying anything negative about anybody else, but I said, I told my wife, I said, honey, man, Hugo sounds better than he ever has,
Well, the thing is, I used to do a couple shots before I go on stage, not get hammered, but, it's just like when you're really, really, really clear, like I can tell when I'm hearing somebody cut a vocal track, I can hear if they're 20 cents off. And,
Right.
a lot of people don't know what cents are, but like cents is a measurement of pitch, right?
Right.
But like, and you as an engineer probably can, and producer can hear that too, because that's what you do, right?
Right.
You don't need an auto tune.
Right.
But when you got just a little bit of like relaxed, that alcohol or whatever, not only does your like a image of how you're coming off,
Right.
but like so to me, I'm consciously aware. I'm like, I can move a lot, but if I move too much, I'm not going to hit this note right. I'm not shaping this vowel right, but it's all happening, like speed of light. But I'm concentrating on vowel shape, where I'm projecting my voice, how my mic is placed, what my next breath is going to be like, and what I can do physically as an entertainer to entertain while maintaining the quality of like all of those things.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Because you're definitely,
Bro, as a person that's our age, right? And you're still jumping around like Britney Spears and maintaining your pitch, and it's still sounding. We don't use playback in Tantric. There's no
tracks or anything.
No tracks. To me, it's just not my thing, because music and live performance has to allow for human, like a human aspect, and that sometimes is like.
So I wanted to ask you: do you guys play with a click? Do y'all use in ears, or do y'all do just like old style, just off the monitors? Because I'm real curious.
I can tell when we're not on a click, but that's because I wrote most of these songs.
Right.
But sometimes if we use a click, it's for the benefit of the drummer, because he didn't write these songs, and sometimes, he'll start it, and sometimes drummers like, you got to play album speed, but album speed sometimes is like slow. And you got to adjust that shit into like the audience. You got an audience that's live. You can't, and you play a song like Breakdown. It's going to sound, you just got to push it a little bit. Sometimes you can play ahead of the beat without actually changing the metronome, as you know. Right. So like, I'll have them do two settings. I'll be like, I want you to play with a click, but I want you to play with a click, but I want, 5 BPMs up, so just across the board. Or, and we find our medium, but we also know 50 or 60 songs in our catalog. We don't just know our set list. So we know a variety. So we can adjust all of those things and, click them. And that's the great thing about, we don't rehearse because we literally rehearse every day. But we know so many songs that we could sit down and do that. But yeah, I've also had great musicians in my band. I mean, literally, and present company included.
Hey, oh, that thing scared me. Oh, I see.
Right.
The camera. Never mind.
It's like camera one,
You got to cut
camera
that.
two,
I know.
camera
Sorry.
You're like this.
I
guy.
kind of freaked out because I didn't see that.
Bro,
You know what I'm
out.
saying? Sorry.
Remember that time we were in your podcast and you're like, what the fuck is that? Oh, it's the camera.
It's the camera.
Yeah.
No. So I hear though. This is what I hear because I've never, even doing I did some 37 channels with you. It's like.
Yeah, that was odd. I love that record, but it was like,
Well, really, for me and you both, it was a strange time in our lives,
Well, to me, it was exactly that, but it was
More for me.
appropriately named. And every now and then I'll get somebody who gets how weird and cool it is. I just wish I had done it with a better recording as far as like engineer. Everybody was kind of like, what are we on today?
Right.
So like there's just from the sonics of it,
Right.
I wasn't happy completely.
Right.
But as something that was just like, man, this guy went left turn, and there's so many cool like timing and just there is
a lot.
There's so much cool stuff in there, but it was just manic.
It was, man.
And
it was crazy.
But you know what? I'm glad I did it, and when I listen to the songs on that record, I wish I could. I thought about this the other day. I was like, I wonder if anybody ever re-recorded a record, the whole record, because they love the record, but the way it should have been done.
I love the songs, that's for sure. And
we had so many all stars that came there, and our good friend Kevin McCreary, Austin Winkler. We had everybody from Waylon Jennings played on that record.
I remember,
it was amazing.
And Kevin, sad he's gone now because he's
among us for sure.
He is, and you know what?
feel
It's
him all
so
the time.
funny because I thought as soon as you walked in the door last night, I thought of him,
Bro, I think about him all the time, and and inside, if there's like an inner, we have this whole agreement, and
it's weird because
he's one of the if there's a heaven and someone goes there based on their behavior and who they are,
that's the man. Yeah,
yeah, he's
such a huge heart, and it's funny because you don't everybody like around me doesn't realize like me. You can tell when you're really friends with somebody when you call them and you pick up right where you started, where you left off, and this is like nothing. What's up, dude?
And you know what? Real friends are like these people. It's like when you accept somebody in your life, that's the part thing. It's like you gotta look at someone and be like, he goes all over, but all these other things, but you gotta like them for who they are. But their heart is always amazing, and Kevin was one of those guys.
Yo,
how rich are we for having to know him. Amongst all of other people, that are in our lives. And one thing I did get from that whole experience of having him in my life is like the people that I do have, me and you, while we're here right here, I'm here in this moment with you, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Man, I appreciate you coming so much.
Yeah.
Man, dude,
I drove 10 hours to come here.
I know you did.
I'm just like, can't we do this remotely? You're just like, no. But I knew that it was important to you, so I was like, all right, let me.
Yeah, because I want to hang out with my
But you
old
better
friends.
support my taco stand. All right.
Taco stand.
Yeah.
Well,
we're gonna make some cool music.
You're gonna move into the freaking the lounge here, and we're gonna start a taco stand out front.
Bro, me and you. What I was thinking is, we were saying we were going through some weird together at a dark period, but we did. What's the name of that song? A Girl in White.
Right.
And when I listened to that song,
I remember that.
When I listened to that song, I was just like, man, this kid was like going through it. And I sometimes forget that this kid was me.
Right.
But I remember that. It was like me, you, and Barb.
I remember that.
When we did that first version of it, and I love that song, but it is literally pure and liquid pain, like as far as what it was about.
Yeah. And it was like, was really weird. I'm proud of you though, man. I'm proud of you, man, because you've stuck with it. You're working your ass off.
Bro, yeah, I have to. Because this is what I would, people are like, hey, if you were really rich and famous, what would you do? And I'd be like, that's what I do. I like to do it. and I love to do it. And sometimes it's struggle, but the struggle, there's not to quote my own music, but there's like happiness is the moments between struggle, and it's like you got to struggle, you know, you got to work for it so you can take that breath of happiness.
Well, to make you feel good about things, and to let you know, like when I explained to Tiffany that you know who you were, whatever, she goes, "Oh man, me and Ashley rocked out to this song every single freaking day."
Right.
And there was another one that she said. That's why I was asking about which record, because I think we skipped around this morning because the kids were listening to it.
I don't even know how many records I have. People, I think it's like, is it how many? 10? Because
10 records so
maybe.
far. 10 records so far.
Because
You
we
did,
did
you did this, the first one over here at East Iris, right?
No, I did the first one. I recorded in the first one in, I think it was called Canyon Studios in L.A.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I did it with and I was fortunate enough to like, you know, like I think Fleetwood Mac and all of them. You know, they had that one board that ended up being a famous board that you know, dude from Foo Fighters bought, and they made that whole movie about it.
Right.
That was the board we were on. So there was a lot of magic in that board because there was something about it. But
that was an API legend, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure I worked on that board
because at that time I was, as far as my engineering and knowledge of it, and it's just like with people, I just know what I like, you know, but I don't necessarily know it's the -24724 hike.
Now, I think that was the first record that me and Paul Hager was was engineering, and I was his second engineer. And, and then Peter Collins was producing, and I think we used that console to do Emmett Swimming over. I think it went to Ocean Way.
There's something to be said about you know, how the music industry has changed, but having a budget to do a record.
I know.
And the way you want to do it. Because people are like, oh, you can do a record in a room. And I'm like, that is true. But, you know what I'm saying? That is true. But you can also paint a painting with, you know, like oil painting, or you can just use a crayon. And
there's a lot of difference.
There's a difference. And there's like a bonding that happens when you're creating something that requires so many layers and it's so much feel, because it's less editing. To me, I'm pre-production more than like I'd rather pre-produce, meaning rehearse for 4 weeks, cut for 2, and be done.
I've got a serious question for you that I never can really ask you while we're just hanging out.
It's 9.5 inches.
listen. Mine is 2. Listen. No, when are you going to really go for the producer career?
Bro, I've thought about that, and I don't know that you know, I love to do it, you know, but I've been so busy because you got to swim a lot, and you got to paddle a lot to just even be, you know.
I know it just seemed to me like you were heading that direction at one time.
And I do want to head that direction. And as a matter of fact, right now, you know, I have like all these young artists, even pop and all things, because to me, a producer is, hey, I know how to help you. I'm a library of musical knowledge that you can reflect upon, but it's also being inspiring the artist to believe that they are who you see them to be.
Right.
And a lot of it is just like, I remember when like I was young and Toby was just like, that was color. Like to get an approval from this person that I looked up to and did all these things, that was like as important as anything, and it made you strive. And right now, I believe in positive reinforcement in all aspects of life, and I have a lot of love to give. You know, I like to see.
I know, and
people do well.
I think you would really help rock and roll in the shape that it's in, because you know it's not in good shape with these younger bands.
Well, the whole shit is not in good shape. When people stopped, unfortunately, this could be a whole different podcast.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, to me, when I produce a band and I'm out there and I'm available and people have to reach out to me, and I'll do it. But right now, I have to create it. You know, people talk about it, but I'm like, okay, I have this many days in which I can dedicate to you,
right?
And I know you're just starting off, so I'm trying to do this for you with this much money, and you know, it's difficult, but yeah, I'm gonna do that eventually. You know, when it's time, but right now, I don't think it's time to be full on, but you know, I trust the universe's timing. You know,
well, with the tool of being sober, You know what I mean? And well,
Soberish.
Also, well, you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I think
I never agreed in that sober word because sober means
I don't either
because I can drink and I will drink, but I just don't enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And I can do I'll do whatever it is that I want to do. Still, I'd never be like, oh, I got to stay away from that. I just literally with me, it wasn't like I had a revelation, like I'm partying too much. To me, what happened was I was going through this bad time of relationship thing, and I was so depressed that I thought that I was just gonna get drunk and kill myself one day. You know, like I was scared that I was gonna be like too, just right at that edge, and I was like, I came to the conclusion that's like, I'm going to just look at this straight on, whatever type of feeling of pain and whatever I'm going to let it, but at least it'll be true to itself. And I always encourage people when they're going through a hard time to not put anything on in their body, because it is hard to tell the difference between rejection and heartbreak and all that shit when you got a little bit of substance. But then after that, and I came out of the other side and I started feeling better. When I had a drink, I was just like, I didn't miss it. As a matter of fact, I didn't like it at all. And I definitely never came to the realization that I've never in my life liked the taste of any alcohol. I just associated it with good feelings,
Really?
So,
okay.
People's. I would say that there's nobody out there that'd be like, if it wasn't for its reaction, what you get from it. You're like, you put a great glass of whatever. So with me, it's like soda. Like, put a glass of soda, put like the best whiskey in the world, and I'm like gonna take that soda 10 out of 10 times because, it kind of burns, and it's like, maybe I'm just a little kid. I've never been that,
What I had to do is I had to go. You know what I had to do? I had to go to jail for a minute.
Yeah.
And realize
for
that
being the hottest guy ever.
And go
right. Just have a clarity and
then my mother, she said something to me about one day you're really going to kill somebody.
Right.
Because you're just drunk and you act like a freaking idiot.
Right.
And
that wasn't my
because I'm coming from a redneck background.
What I was good at was like I can't remember my life where I was like ever. Maybe a handful of times where I was just like, bleh, to me, I was so functional, right?
That's what's scary about people.
That
like
it was
me
just
and you
like
doing that kind of thing.
So to me, and you just did it on the weekends. But the thing also is, people see you on the weekends, so you're only doing it on the weekends, and then they only see you on the weekends. So then
they associate you all the time.
Yeah. So being a famous person and or a famous producer. When people, the game of telephone with us is completely different, Right. So like
I was just telling Jackson that today,
bro. Like by the time this story of Hugo and Malcolm getting together and doing a couple of bumps gets to the other side,
right. We're messed up all the time,
bro. And you know what? People remember the negative little rumor because for some reason it's human nature that people remember the one time that you got arrested and said some and not the other billion times where you just dedicated yourself to people and love and all that shit, but that doesn't matter. I don't really give a shit what people think, but I do give a shit about how I know who I am as a person. I want people to understand that's the true me, and there's layers, you know what I'm saying? Musicians, if you're a good musician and you're just like one of these, well, then you probably suck. You're probably John Tesh.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're probably terrible.
Probably John Tesh. You'd be like, hey, check out this piano piccolo thing I'm doing.
Right.
No thanks, John.
Well, that leads me to another question, and I really want to know if you feel that
the world is flat.
That the real guys, the real musicians, the real Jedis like us are going away. Do you think that they're...
No. Listen,
okay,
not only that.
I love it.
There's no way, because listen, here's the thing. You've got to know that everybody has a bigger moment in the sun, and in what they do in that moment in their sun, right, affects all generations of music after them. So the newer, younger people, and I used to be a guy who's like, that guy sucks,
Right. I used to be the same way,
hater. But like people like that are just recently there's this hip hop artist named Doobie. and he did this like cover of a breakdown, and I love hip hop. To the people who don't know me, Tantric's highly influenced by hip hop and cadence.
Right.
Lyrical
I agree.
cadence.
I agree.
So, when I'm playing a club and I'm seeing this guy who's in a different genre completely, and this is 20 years later, and this guy did a cover, and it's a hip hop cover, and this hip hop cover has got 10 million views, and I'm just like, to me, I'm just like, yo, that's what my position is right now.
Right.
But you also have to be. There's a part where you are the guy who is carving out the stone, and then there's the guy who's like, from me carving so many stones, let me guide you. And then it's okay for you to just be influenced. But, man, just live. To me, it's just happiness is in moments. I just try to do what makes me happy at any given time is with one rule and one rule only, which is it can't be at the backs of others or the price can't be other people's. But other than that, man, I'm only here because I want to be, not not because I gotta go do this. No, if I didn't want to do it, I would have been like, okay.
Well, dude, I so appreciate you.
But you don't have to
being
appreciate it
here.
because we're friends, and that's what friends.
Well,
do. But I also think this is a cool thing.
I know you don't read all the articles that's written about you, but there was a writer that I read something. I don't know. It was like when we started the Christmas stuff together because everybody needs to know we're doing a Christmas record. That said that you were the link. From the grunge era to the modern era of music, and I think you were. And that breakdown was how
I've gotten a lot of compliments like that, but music is
that's
so
not
subjective.
the only hit song you had, so I don't want to just
Breakdown. And to me is the it's the genie in the bottle. It's like those songs that you need to open up the hey, everybody's paying attention, But it's like. So
I think it started. I think it was.
It's a great song.
What kind of bridged an era of music together
because we were never really a grunge band, and still aren't a grunge band. I mean, we were post grunge. We were influenced, but I grew up in the same town as Nuno Betancourt, so I was like influenced by these '80s players. But
do you know Nuno
very, very well? Nuno actually wrote funny. Hey Now with me. And,
okay.
And we did a lot of stuff. But Nuno, I used to skip school when Nuno was like, he's a little bit older than me. But and I have a demo tape of More Than Words when it was a demo tape.
Wow, that's so awesome.
We used to go to his house and record it. And, I was friends with his nephews more because they were my age. But, he'd have the Fostex 4-track.
Right.
And that's how we killed it. As a matter of fact, I recorded my first demo of all time with his Fostex 4-track. Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's called a song called Pseudo Love.
So did y'all stay in touch all these years?
Bro, like we like it's just like us, life gets in the way, but when we see each other, we're like, hey, we got this bond that we did some music together. We come from a town that had about 15,000 people. We're both platinum artists and we're both Portuguese.
And that's outside of Boston, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like a little suburban town, but it's just a great town, and everybody there is still the same, and everybody there knows me and me, them, and it's kind of like.
Man, I thought that you were from inner city Boston for some reason.
Definitely. I mean, by looking at my sheer toughness, I'm sure it's easy. Like people are like, this guy's from the streets, and I was like, yes, from Oak Street in the little subdivision. It's got the fountain. I put that in. I petitioned for it.
No, I thought you were from.
Bro, I've lived in all. Like, I'm a very adaptable person, and I don't really require a lot. But I lived in the hood of Detroit. I've lived in the hills of Beverly, and everything in between. And I can adapt to all of those things. Like, if you look at all my friends and all the people I've ever dated, it's like the United Colors of Benetton meets meets NATO. It's crazy. It's just like that's my ex-girlfriend Ashante, Shaniqua, Mary, Hossy. So it's like
I'm the same way.
But musically, it was like that too because I grew
just
up.
Friends was. I got a ton of friends that are just a lot of different friends.
I like people's inner beauty.
That's the way. I mean, I do too. And,
I've dated the most beautiful girls in the whole world that were the ugliest people that I've ever
dated. God, that was me. I was married to a couple.
Yeah. I know. You took it all the way.
They were the ugliest people,
man.
But they were beautiful on the outside, and
right.
they looked good, and then, everybody was jealous of that. But
it's like BMWs. You're like, man, this thing costs a lot and it doesn't really give you anything back. That's how I feel about my
don't
cars.
say. Hey, listen. I will tell. Well, you got the right girl. It was last time. It was like because we're at the shop, the car place getting a bride, and I swear I was like, here is a Kia, which is outside, and here's a BMW. I'm like, honey, I mean, which one you want? And she picked the Kia. I went, wow,
it's a great girl. But to me, it's like, I've been engaged several times. For one reason or another, it didn't happen. But I'm sure a lot of it had to do with me. But to me, it's about what makes you happy, not what you're supposed to do. It's like this whole thing of marriage and thinking, I'm happy for you, but I'm happy because you found something that makes you happy right now. And that wants to be celebrated with a wedding. Great. That's what makes you happy.
Well, we've been together for 9 years. We have freaking 4 kids together.
So you guys don't really know if it's going to work out.
We don't really know we're going to stay together or not.
Right. But at least you can sell the kids because those things are still going for.
Well, the doctor was supposedly fixed her, but now we're worried she's pregnant again. So I'm like, we're going to have the
and I wanted to apologize for that right ahead of time. Had I known that was the second bedroom on the left. No, we're just joking.
So
I didn't know you had that many kids.
I've got 7 with my stepdaughter.
Shit.
Yeah, man, I got a lot of kids.
You shouldn't do a podcast. Just it's 20 years.
Man, I've got kids.
You got a lot of time on here.
And I love every single one of them the same. I mean, you love them differently, but you love them.
Yeah.
Just you have a different feelings for them.
Kids.
No, but anyway, that's enough of my.
No, that's
my
great.
family.
I'm sure and I love kids too. Honestly,
Well, that's the
totally relive.
That's the question, and this may be a terrible. We can always edit it out.
Why don't I have
do
any
you
kids?
Do you feel that Hugo's going to ever settle down and like
I'm always settled. What does settle down mean? Meaning like I stay in a house. I can't even if I wasn't a musician, I can't just be like. I'm not wired that way. I need to conquer the world. I need to make every day like a memorable day. Because at the end of the day, when you're looking back at your memories, you have these ones that you remember, and then there's a bunch of gray matter. And I don't want about that. I want to remember every fucking day because every day was like epic. Just like this day, I'll remember. Hey, remember that time we drove 10 hours, then we got overcharged for the hotel room, and then I forgot to print out the paper, which we did. We need to print out that paper. And then we came here, and then and the next day I bought a Yukon off that dude with a wooden leg with a kickstand on it. It was like crazy. So, but every day I try to make awesome. And sometimes you can't just have those like, pff, but you know what? I try to be in the fucking moment at all times. And I always say this to people that I'm like, I'm really happy to exist in this moment with you because it's, in all of time, the amount of things that had to line up together for us two people to be existing in the same spot is not anything to be just kind of, it's an important thing.
Well, I see. If you can look up when Hugo is, because he doesn't know his own schedule, and which I don't know my own schedule.
Yeah, but I do have a blank planner.
When you are playing the Whiskey and Go-Go, I was thinking about flying. Me and Tiffany flying out there for that and seeing you there because I would love to see you play that club because I have old memories from there. It's like that. I can't.
When I play there, it's great. First of all, they got a great staff and they're professional and all that shit. And we play there a lot, so much so that we're kind of like one of our posters is on their dressing room. Like we love that place, and we have our following there. But of course, we'd love to have you. But it's always great to have somebody that is a producer. Also, there's only a handful of people that I've worked with in my life. That I do with Tantric. You're one of them, and it'll be cool to like continue that on because you like.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm having a blast. I had a blast on We Three Kings, and we're about to dig into another one.
It's going to be a very cool thing that we're going to do, and I'm surprised that. I'm not surprised that anybody hasn't done it the way we're gonna do it because it's in here, but it's gonna be like no other, and it's about time because I freaking hate Christmas music so much.
And when I heard the demo, I went, I've got to do this. I called Dan Clucci and said, Lucci,
right,
and said, man, I got to do this with him.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you talking about?
It's great because
I called you. I'm like, dude, I got to do this.
You think of the stories that these represent. Christmas songs, everybody knows them, and holiday songs, whether it's Hanukkah, whatever, they know them because it's forced in. It's like it's all jolly outside the snow.
Right.
But like. The storylines can be told by a different director, And We Three Kings,
It's a darker way
It's
to
a
go.
darker way about this struggle of these people trying to, find this magical thing. But taking the religious aspect out of it, it's just there's a cool way to walk and there's not a cool way to walk. And I don't think that Christmas songs have been done in a cool way to walk.
Like I said, we can edit anything out, but I got to ask you as a friend,
Yeah.
I mean, does it have anything to do with Christ himself? I mean,
Well, I was born a Christian, right? But I was also given the gift of logic and intellect, and I have to know that if I knew 1% of anything that I don't know, then I would be the smartest human being in the world.
Right.
That being said, is Christ the Son of God? Is the question. Not me to answer, but I'll accept the possibility that he
right.
is the Son of God in the way that is literally said in the Bible. And I've read the Bible along with all religious books from beginning to end many a times.
Right.
So what I definitely don't believe is this. I don't believe that my friend who is of a different ethnicity and or religion is not equally entitled to said
The kingdom of heaven.
right. And I think that
That's interesting because that's exactly how I feel.
I think that I think that things have always been the same since the beginning of time. The only things that change is vocabulary words, and I'll explain to you what we then cherished as prayer. Right, we now have evolved, right? So people pray all the time, whether they're aware of it or not. But there's a science behind it. But prayer and meditation and manifestation are all the same thing. They're asking a greater being, and you're imagining, in one sense. So the perspective comes different. Faith and faith is, and it's tied to quantum physics and how quantum physics works.
I totally agree.
So like prayer is an actuator of quantum physics and being you're imagining with the best possible scenario, and that effect on the science of it is also happening. So, you can explain that in one way or a different way. But I remember if you put this cup right here and you're a Christian and I'm a Jew and this guy, and we describe this cup, everybody is going to describe it differently because from my perspective, all I see is this part. But it doesn't mean it's not the same cup. So whether you call him Jesus or Buddha or the energy or the universe, does it really matter? At the end of the day, it aren't your actions the things that define you, not the names and how you do it. Because I could tell you, just like every other evangelist out there, that, and I could claim and I could say all the shit. It's what you do when nobody's looking. It's
what matters.
It's what you do when you have a hard choice and an easy choice, and you could go either way. And I think we're our own. I think humans are inherently good. And I think we're born with a little good meter. But I teeter on a little bit.
Yeah, because
I don't have a problem with being
what
devilish.
What I think is like important. I mean, what I think is super important, and then it sounds crazy, but to me, I've done a lot of looking into the whole thing.
Me too.
And it's like,
and I think that honestly, if there was a Jesus as he's proclaimed to be, I don't think they would design a book that was made women subservient to men, and these Christian people had slaves. These people also tortured. The Crusades, for example. St. Augustine, all these people. What? These were fucking murderers that went over there and be like, "You want to be a Christian? No." But the winner of the battle is the one who tells the story.
Right.
And so put that in perspective. Humans can be pieces of shit. And they wrote that book based on a story of telephone also. And it could have been just manipulated just like it's a first form of government.
You know what you need to check out is Jordan Peterson's Bible study, because it's all based on I've been
logic
through it 3
and truth
times.
and
Oh man, it's scientific.
It has to be
to a degree, but he's like explaining like the coat of many colors, and Joseph in the coat of many colors, and how his brothers sent him in this pit, and
right.
Then
I don't know the story, but
it's amazing. That's why you ought to.
But I'll tell you what I do know,
because it's made for atheists actually, and some of it to some Christians would be offending.
But I don't even think that atheists are atheists. I think
I totally agree there.
Okay, because atheists don't believe in science. If you believe in science, then you believe in God, because God is science, science is universe is all the same.
That's the same shit I say.
You're like, I'd be like, I'm an atheist. No, you don't believe in this story, in this parable that was written by humans, but you do believe that there's a universe and that there's things. Now, whether the sun rises in a literal sense or in a scientific sense, or if it's made out of nuclear gas or whatever the fuck it is, it's still the sun.
Right.
Whether the world is flat or not. You know?
Well, the flat Earth thing. Let's not pick on anybody because we just got us off the phone with somebody.
Why would I pick on anybody?
So here is my question, and this is because I mean this is just questions. It's like I'm curious because I know
I love this
you're
conversation.
a very
by
smart.
the way.
You're a smart guy, and you probably look at things like I do, and I see the Anunnaki. And I go
Anunnaki, and I know all about that.
Yeah, and it's like,
know?
but
the Mayan race and the pre and the,
yeah,
and the
there's some confusing things about the Anunnaki and where they came from, and because
how about just read the first page of Ezekiel, and that will also give you a little confusion because I'm pretty sure that's describing something that is not anything that you would have even described. You know, it's like, you know, is the Bible metaphorical? It has to be, right? Has to be metaphorical.
Well, I mean, I would say when God created the heavens and the earth, I mean, I always ask my artists, like I asked you.
Do you
when
think
we
that
first
God?
started, I mean,
Do you think that God would be sitting down and be like, you know what, we're going to give these guys an instruction booklet that's going to have to last their test of time.
No, I think
we're going to use that and be like, you know, it's got to be relevant.
I think there's some degree there. It's an instruction booklet, but it contradicts itself so much, though.
Just read the 10.
But that's why you ought to do the Jordan Peterson thing, because I'm telling you, man, it woke up my eyes.
I don't need anybody to tell me what I know that is good or not. But
no.
I like to hear a theory, but
it's not about that. You know what it's about?
I strive for faith, for sure.
It's about the only instruction manual that we have. But the thing is though, because the Torah itself is like going
the Old Testament, it's the exact same thing,
right? And it's like you're sitting there
and
going,
Jesus is the most quoted.
There is some
prophet.
very, you know, Ezekiel has measurements in it all over the thing, and
right.
what are these measurements? My thing is okay, and I don't want to take.
And there is scientific,
but I am an ancient alien theorist to some degree,
for sure. And anybody who's got a half a brain, who thinks that we're a singularity in the universe of consciousness, is.
I mean,
and I'm sorry.
I agree with that.
I'm not allowed to say anymore. Listen, I'm old school. But like, bro, like
I know what you mean, and it's true though.
Just look at your own. You know, like when you take a pulse of somebody, you don't have to wait there for 60 seconds. You take for 10 seconds and you multiply it times 6 to get an average, right?
Right.
Same thing with just the Earth. Look at the Earth. Look at a microorganism, or you know, just a little community like your lake. Even in that thing, there's infinite smaller things and infinite bigger things. And that happens in both the physical and non-physical. And non-physical is awareness. Enlightenment is meaning how aware are you of your consciousness and things that are happening around you as your body is also, you know, evolving. But like, I don't believe in finite anything.
Right.
I believe that everything is always continuous. You know, including consciousness, but I believe it evolves, and certain things are not necessary for us to know. I don't know if we black out when we die or if there's consciousness. I would like to hope that throughout my lifetime that I gain whatever it is, the experience that I need that creates some peace in me knowing that there's a finite side of this physical body.
Right. What if there's no life after death? What a sad story. I
To
mean, seriously, what a sad story.
The only thing that really kind of convinces me that there isn't, or is that everything in the universe is. Evolution only happens out of necessity, and I believe in evolution as much as I would believe in a God. Okay, but at this
I don't
point,
believe in evolution. I don't believe we came from monkeys.
Well, evolution doesn't even say that. Evolution never said that we came from monkeys. Evolution just says that things evolve through nature.
I think that's very true. I think we
That's all I
evolved.
gotta say.
I think, you know.
It never said no. That's
But the whole we came from
misinformation.
apes and stuff. To me, is
But
like
nobody
very
actually
big.
says that.
Okay,
Cro-Magnon in evolution, that's never actually said. Monkeys evolved. That species evolved, and humans evolved. Two separate species.
Right.
That's what evolution says.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. It's like people are like, we're not monkeys. That's like people saying age came from a monkey. That's not true. That's not what people said. You're It's like, bro, like you're misquoting the shit. Get all
I
the
love you, dude.
Right, it's
That's
like-
awesome, dude. Because
it's like, bro,
I
it's
heard
just
it the other day.
fucking
I went, that's the dumbest thing I've ever
I,
heard.
like people say that. It's like it surprises me how much we're moving forward in technology, and now like monkeypox is like, hey, there we are, fucking monkeys again. Now we got fucking monkeypox. I'm like, who the is sitting around trying to be like, how am I gonna get that monkey to me? You know, like I got all these fucking bananas, and I'm just like, how'd you dawn? You hanging out? Like,
Hey,
how fucking boring is your fucking life? Like, you know, like, how does that even happen in a physical sense? I feel like that monkey would kick your ass.
oh
bro.
yeah, a freaking,
Like, I
what-
believe a
fucking
sheep.
chips are fucking mean, man. They beat the shit out of you.
You know, but it's just like that game of telephone. They get one sheep, all of a sudden you're fucking monkeys and creating AIDS. And fucking, it's stupid. Come on. Like, don't even say like that as our. Because once you like say, I don't believe in evolution because we don't monkeys, you know, then it makes me go, okay, well, you know, you're not looking at both sides of the thing. But like, you know, I'm up for hearing all because I do believe my dad told me this one thing and these things, all things are true. Inception creates all truth.
Someone
Once you
told me
create-
that the other day. I guess
all
it was-
things are true because all things that are alive or are born into something, they come from something. Right. So there is some truth in everything.
No, it's Eric Baker, wasn't it?
Oh, like I was telling you yesterday, I was like, they're like, there's no way the world was made in 7 days unless it was an alien race who terraformed it, you know, in that sense. And then
they
that
had the
creates,
technology.
and then all of a sudden, this Bible makes a little bit more sense, you know, like, okay, he was 864 years old making a boat, cool, you know, like that, guys,
Well,
you know.
I mean, he probably was, but the
But the
atmosphere
timeline
was
doesn't
different.
make sense.
Well, the atmosphere was different.
Why was Jesus only written about or by 300 years after this guy's disappearance on Earth? There's a lot of holes in that story, but I do believe in the most important part of the Bible, which is universal to all books of religion, and it's just like, hey man, don't be a to your parents. Try to be a good fucking person.
Right.
If you commit to somebody, don't, you know what I'm saying? This is common sense. Don't be a piece of shit. This is going to be my Bible by Hugo. I have my own little cult. There's 5 people in a.
Love people.
It just don't be an asshole, bro. Like, give more than you take, you know?
Right.
Balance, bro. Like, the Force, Jedis.
Exactly,
Bro,
dude.
like, you can live your life based on Star Wars' the Force. It's just like, bro, be one with people. Give more, follow. If you come to a fork on the road where there's 2 choices you have to make, pick the hardest one to do because that's generally
The one you need to go.
right. And it's about
love it.
It's about what you do when nobody's looking. Who are you? You know, people are like, look, I give charity and I take pictures with them.
I know.
You know, it's like, yo, bro, if you really wanted to help those people, you wouldn't humiliate them by saying, look at how great I am. Let me take it as a thing.
And that's funny because
I don't. Celebrities do that all the time. I'm just like, man,
in the
you're a
Gnostics,
fucking
that's
joke.
what I read about Jesus. You know,
like-
he said don't give to the poor and don't pray for the poor
No.
because hey man, you're going to act like you're going to go bragging about how you do it, and that completely
Bro,
defeats the whole
And that's the
point
thing.
of it.
And people, that's pseudo humility. Okay?
Exactly.
Because the problem is, first of all, everything's got a price, but like dignity is an important thing to me, So to me, you have to kill me before I have to beg somebody for $1. I'll die of hunger. But the thing is, there's a lot of people out there in this machine, because money is God to most humans out there. It isn't to me. I don't love money. It's never loved me back. But to me, it's just like, bro, if there's a catalog of all that you've done in your life, there'll also be a catalog of maybe nobody will ever know about it, but of that thing that you did that day or you do that day that nobody knows because you decided that you are that person and for no other reason than that. That is, to me, what defines you, Who the
Me
fuck
too. I think so too.
bro, like, you know what I'm saying? People, especially being famous in a sense, is like people have this persona. I am who I am all the time. If you do not have the capacity of understanding the difference between my satire and my true actions as a person, then that seems like your personal problem.
I always wanted to ask you, man, how is it like when you go into Walmart and somebody recognizes you. I mean,
Bro,
I know
like
that
to
happens
me,
a lot.
this is what happens. First of all, I think that they're scoping me out because I either look like the guy who's in a band or the homeless guy that's like outside the bush. So like I'm like, is that guy wondering if I'm shoplifting or not?
Right.
Because I'm gonna put these things back if I'm.
Well, I know. Do you still get stopped a lot in restaurants and stuff?
Sometimes, mostly that I notice the things. And when I see them like checking me out, I'll be like, it's okay for you to come up here,
Right.
It's cool. But I'm flattered by that, but it's not what I feed on. But I do want to be that person who like, yo, I can take time to acknowledge and thank this person who pays my rent, even if it's just a little sliver of it.
I have to tell you,
Yeah.
because me and Tiffany,
That's the only reward you
me
get.
and Tiffany is over at the coffee shop over here last week, and we're with an artist of mine. And I look over, and Tommy Emmanuel's standing there. He's sitting there talking to some people.
I don't know who that is, but I don't know.
He's
who
he's like the most world famous flamenco guitar player.
Right.
And that not many
I
people
thought
do.
Paco Lucia was the most famous.
This
or
guy,
Altamiola.
look up Tommy Emmanuel. You're gonna be like, oh shit,
I'm
this
gonna
guy.
put Paco against Tommy any day on a battle.
Well, I kept staring over at him. She's like, no, stop staring. So finally I went over and said, hey, I just want to thank you for freaking kicking so much ass for the human race, because we all enjoy, because I remember.
It's amazing what music, how powerful music is. People don't even grasp how powerful it is.
I think sound in general.
It's the most amazing thing. Like at the end of every show, I always like to put a toast out to music, not to people, not to anything, because it's such an example of the good things that humans can make, and how this non-synthetic, like non-drug, is the most important. I would say it's the top 5 most important things to all people, right?
Right, and
More important than television, I would say.
I would say that it's a.
If you could have television or you could have music, one or the other, what would you pick?
Oh, I'd pick music any day.
If you were blind or you couldn't hear it, I would rather hear it, right? To me, it's like music. To me, music is like, man, this is how I write songs. Okay, first of all, I write the story. I think I know what the story about is. Okay, this is the story I'm telling. Okay,
Right.
and then how literal I'm going to be in that story kind of plays on. But then the music behind it is like the soundtrack of a movie. So like if you ever watch a movie and there's the dialogue happening and there's no soundtrack, the music is kind of like a setup for it. You to subconsciously know what you're supposed to feel to create the mood. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's such a beautiful fucking thing. But when you can sync those in a way that will make you like shed a tear or smile or just relive, man, that is, if that isn't power, if that isn't the most amazing.
And I think that's why.
And I never did it for that gift because I was only aware of that, made aware of how really it is,
Because you started out super young.
Yeah, but I was young and you don't get wisdom. It doesn't get that cachet is earned over time.
Right.
Yeah, but I am so proud to be the soundtrack of many people's lives. And
you are definitely.
And to me, more important than money, ever will be, and it's definitely the driving force.
As a writer, do you see yourself like evolving into this spectrum of evolution, evolving into someone who writes for a lot of other people and like doing like?
I may have already written for a lot of people.
I know you've written for quite a few, but I'm saying though, like you were talking about, you wrote a country song, and I know some degree how big of a joker you are, and some of those things are just you want to freaking.
Bro, I bet you that if you put a little pinwheel here and you spun that pinwheel, and it would land on any genre, that I could write a song in that genre and that song would not suck.
And win.
Yeah. So there's only many things I'm good at, and I'm only good at because I love them and I love music. So I love it's just, to me, it's just like, this is what I do. I don't even know or have a memory of my life with me not being articulate in music. Right. My first memories of being a piano player, I was playing Czerny, which is like, this.
Right. That's how I was too, man.
So I was playing.
I was
classical.
a little. I was 7 years old though when I started. I think you were.
I don't remember consciousness without a piano, and knowledge of a piano. So it was just, to me, just like sports figures, you got to, if you start young, because it's those friggin' first 10 years. Okay. But I didn't know it was going to be a pro for a long time.
But I don't want to bounce too far because me, I can go
me
crazy.
Too.
And this is
we're gonna have to edit.
The podcast has really made me. It's funny because TJ was saying it earlier how it's made me focus on stuff. But I want to ask you, do you believe in reincarnation because you were a prodigy like I was as far as piano playing?
I believe that people who have had past life experiences that I've met that are very serious people and very logical and these aren't like crocs, really believe that is true. Now, that being said, most people define what the possibilities of everything are on a three-dimensional level, and I do believe in transdimensional existence, multiverses and levels this way. Just because we can only see this spectrum of colors and live in this many things doesn't mean that there isn't a simultaneous thing because it just doesn't mean logical that you die and then in a same timeline come up, but maybe there is. I believe that there's got to be some basis of why people have, there can't be like all why people have these memories of these lives. I met these two separate people in Massachusetts that remember their past lives, and the older person and the younger person are flipped, meaning that the daughter is the mother and they remember each other.
You're kidding me.
I swear on everything.
And they remembered they
now
switched spots.
You should check this out, bro. There's a lot of things, but they connected, and they now share a life together again. And they searched for each other, and there's many stories of this. I'm like,
I know Ohio State supposedly has the biggest library of that,
bro. Like people search for each other and everything, and sometimes when there's something missing, there's got to be some fucking truth to you knowing. Because I don't believe in coincidence, and I don't believe in the chaos theory. I believe that everything's by design and influences everything.
Right. So, the creator's the one who makes the rules, and whoever created this.
How about this? We are creator. You want me to say? This is how I believe. Okay, things that have never existed,
right,
as soon as you say them out loud, exist. Okay, like I'm just gonna say that a blogger. A blogger is a triangle that sits on top of a coffee cup and spins. Okay. Now, 10 minutes ago, I would ask you what a blogger was. Would you know? Now you know. What is a blogger?
It's triangle. It sits on a cup of spin.
Okay, I just created that. So the power of thought and inception is, therefore, things creating that never existed before.
Do you think we're in a simulation?
Well, I believe that could be very, very possible because I've read all about it, and I know what Elon Musk thinks about it, and he thinks that that in 30 years that it'll be undecipherable between reality and not.
What?
It would make sense a little bit, because then you could live your life as playing this character, and that character dies, and you're like, oh my God. But to make it extra real, you don't know that you're in it, So that could be possible, but it still doesn't mean that the consciousness that controls that character is still, you know what I'm saying? Right. Whether you're driving this body or not, it doesn't affect your moral compass, does it?
Right.
Unless you're, when you're playing, I beat up the hookers all the time. Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. I don't even get a point. I'm just like, let's find these bitches. Get my money. Okay. I'm just like, believe my. Is it bad that I just like use Grand Theft Auto to like just be a criminal? Listen, I always wanted to rob a bank to just see if I could get away with it. Because I'm just like,
bank robbery's always been a fantasy of mine. I just don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to go in there and get the money.
Well, if nobody moves, maybe we won't have to.
Okay, man, can we take? Man, I gotta pee really bad.
Yeah, you want me to? Here,
yeah.
Right here.
Come on. Right. Let's take a second. We'll come back and talk about aliens and Bigfoot.
Right, cool. I'll tell you my alien.
I gotta smoke too.
Yeah.
I got a great story for you, man.
Yeah.
So my two twins that are 7. Any light?
Please.
So when they were like 4 years old, they would like talk to each other.
Oh yeah.
They would talk, and we couldn't understand what the they were saying. Well, my neighbor right here, the guy Lisa here, I'll wait till you get done.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I can listen and talk. just like trying
But
to.
the guy on the other side of the studio
this whole thing
was a
with
guy
that.
from Brazil. He's Portugal. He comes in. My little boy's watching cartoons in the kitchen.
Right. Brazilian people are wild.
And he comes in and goes, dude, you got to come in here and see this. I go in there, and the reason why we couldn't understand my kids were because they were talking in Portuguese. They were watching cartoons in Portuguese from the time they were 2 years old. So they were talking in Portuguese together. And because they understood perfectly what each other was saying.
I'm saying. When I mean, I don't have kids, but you know, I'm the favorite uncle many times because, you know, I like being around kids and I enjoy their company.
Right.
And I have a good rapport with kids. I don't know if it's because I'm a kid myself, but I like them. I think they're the best versions of humans, right?
Right.
But their ability to learn and retain is
unreal.
But then they'll get dumb and turn into assholes just like us.
Well, let's hope not. That's the whole point.
I mean, at least we're good at, convincing people.
Anyway, it's a good
I don't think I'm an asshole or dumb. And I don't think I've gotten my ability to retain or learn has gotten any different. I can do anything that I want still. As long as I have will, I can be a rocket scientist. I just choose not to because...
So I couldn't help but overhear the conversation you was having with Case out there about the moon being hollow.
Right.
And the fact that we were talking about the planets or whatever not being able to.
Well,
I would like to have a conversation about that.
We can. Because here's the one thing. Nobody, let's take it from an outside perspective and I think that this is because life is an individual thing. It's an individual ride.
Right.
And your consciousness is individual. You have these people that you love, but you're there by yourself. You are born alone and you will die in your own things. And there's not a lot of people with you. Or is there? Shut up. What? But just like a non-biased investigation of what is true, right?
Right.
A non-bias, knowing that there's 100% truth on it, and there's no conspiracy, and there's no manipulation of the truth, or that every possibility. The Skinwalker Ranch that my friend is actually producing. I mean, there's some pretty crazy stuff.
There's
happening.
some really big evidence and stuff.
There's huge evidence, and
there's a portal out.
But I don't know that. I have a theory that all of these things like the chupacabra, the fucking Bigfoot, all the shit, that they all could be one and the same, or what I'm saying. These could
really?
Well, the thing is, skinwalkers, and these stories, of like a creature like that, right? Have existed throughout different parts of the country and other countries, just a little bit different. Chupacabra means like they suck the blood of goats. That's what it means.
Right.
But a skinwalker is like that. They would take a wolf on, thing. Bigfoot. So just because science would say that if evolution happened like this in other planets, that it would make sense that it was bipedal, meaning two. Standing on two, so that could make sense. But I read a book on aliens and how there are, not only have there been one but many different types of species that have, and some of them are subservient to each other. Like the gray being subservient to the Nordics, and and granted, when I read this, I can't deny. You have to read it with an open mind of the possibility of it being true, just like when I read the Bible, I'm like, the world was created in 7 days. You have to read it with the mind of anything could be possible. Anything could be possible. Dude, the craziest things are real. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Our reality is so crazy in itself that anything could be possible.
I don't feel like we were created here on Earth, because if that's so, then why would we need sunglasses and suntan lotion and stuff like that? I mean,
that's
it doesn't
because
make any sense.
The reason why is because I'm Portuguese, right? And I have a hue. I'm white, but people look at me, they're like, I'm white. There's something in there. But I think that people, when they're born genetically into an ecosystem, right, that their adaptation is made to suit that ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? But when we evolved into civilization, we were no longer bound by boundaries. So the whitest people have gone into the hottest suns and vice versa. and that's why we need.
But
skin.
that brings me to.
But no, and we.
Okay,
also
I don't
believe
want to
that,
be like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. But I want to ask you something. Though,
Yeah.
because I always thought you were Italian. So the fact that I found out that you're not, and then you're Portuguese,
they're pretty much same thing.
But is it the same line of
Bro,
longitude?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, Europeans.
Or that's latitude.
Listen, all human genes that are not recessive are brown eyes and like the things they look like me.
Right.
Blue eyes and blonde hair. These are recessive genes and stuff like that. So the prominent dominant gene is gonna look something like this, right?
Right.
But yeah, it is. Europe is pretty much on the same thing, but north and south of the equator in those polar things exist these other, an Aryan, more Aryan. There's like no African American looking northern or southern culture.
Right.
No, there's no black people that were inherent from Antarctica or like whatever.
You don't think so?
I absolutely know so. I mean, Pangea it separated the planet through its tectonic plates, but and I think from there that's why countries like Australia, who have creatures that are indigenous to only that like nobody else.
That is wild though.
That's why, because that island separated early from the rest of the world. Therefore, that evolutionary thing that's happening in there stayed within in that realm. But things that are surrounded by water and have been for millions of years tend to have things that are only there because they can't cross paths.
In the Galapagos Islands, how you say that?
Galapagos. Well, that's the Galapagos Islands is more it just happens to be a geographical spot where.
But there's different creatures there than there is anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's where the Tasmanian devil is.
It's known for its turtles, but I think that's just a spot for convenience. Just like Florida, it's like there seems to be a lot of old people. It just happens to be where
the Tasmanian
all
devil
these
is.
things are fluent. You can go over there. It's cheap to live. So people go there. Just like turtles go there, and I don't know exactly about the Tasmanian devil, so I won't speak of it. But it's a cool little creature. But
actually, man, it's pretty fierce creatures. Half tiger, half dog. And,
yeah.
Well, it's got the stripes of a tiger.
Yeah.
And it's got the face.
But you
of a
could
tiger.
see that, like you see like the same, like koala bears and kangaroos and stuff like that. These are animals that are, kangaroos are marsupial, right? I think it's marsupial, right? But like we have marsupials everywhere. But you could see a beaver. You could see like these other creatures. You could see how they could be related. Just like you could see like. The whitest blue-eyed person with an Hispanic. You're like, that we look different, but you could see.
But we're the same species.
Same species, yeah.
Different
Right.
part of the world.
Yeah.
But that I know this is crazy. Have you seen the study on, like, you're talking about evolution, on like because they found that one race of hobbits, they call it the hobbit creatures, in one island. It was in Indonesia island.
Yeah, and the giants.
Right. So
bro, I
at
believe
one
that
time,
could have happened, and it could have been again a small sect of humanity that broke off, and for a huge amount of years. That just like if you look at like other parts. Like there's just.
So you don't feel like I
believe that there's an evolutionary. I don't believe that we were like, hey, here's a full-grown human. Let's plop him on Earth. Okay.
Okay. But let me ask you something. Like this particular hobbit species is one that they're really looking at hard because it makes you think that they're using these places as like experimental. Like they just put that hobbit guys there and said, let's see how this species or this part of the branch of humanity is going to actually freaking survive.
And I would say that could have some basis on truth, but let's just go through these boundaries, okay? For you to be an evolved species, right? Like an alien or you have to have these things. First of all, I don't think there could be. I think evolution would phase out malice because you have to work. War and killing and shit like that just for conquering. That's not an evolutionary species. You have to work together with people to step forward, and that's been proven in fact. So I don't think that like there's some super smart alien race who's like, let's put these short people right here, see what happens. But I do think hey, our species, our planet is dying, and maybe to create some sort of lineage, or like we help. We see animals that are hurt. Geologists see animals that are hurt for no other reason. We take those animals, just that one animal. Even if we're polluting the whole rest of the ocean, these same will take that and spend $100,000 to make a beaver and go back into the wild. Meanwhile, they're taking out his whole habitat.
Right.
So I don't know if that would be the reason, but I think that like I think all things are true, and if there's one species, then there's multiple advanced species.
Right.
And I think that they live, and some of them can live interdimensionally. My friend is a medium, and she's a very famous medium. And as long as I've known her, I've never really asked her to have a session with me. But I asked her about it. Like people, I'm always very skeptical about that, because what's the difference between a hunch or feeling and then undeniable universal reality, right? Because I asked her, I was like, so you believe in the afterlife? Because you're a medium, and she's like, no, I never said that I believe in an afterlife. I just, and she described what she believes, what she's communicating with is consciousness passing through dimensions of existence. And now we're bound by a physical body, but even astral projection and people who can astrally project successfully, and a friend of mine actually wrote the book on it. These are people who are separating from their conscious, right. their consciousness is separating from their physical, car they live in, which is our body, traveling and then coming back to it.
Oh, I've done. Listen, I'm not going to get on here and say about what my experience is.
Lucid dreaming.
It was a very.
I've
vivid,
had some lucid dreams, but it was very difficult to do it in a way that was sober.
Have you ever like meditated and then
absolutely
find yourself astro?
I did it, and I did it purposely and successfully once, and it was ironically when I was in jail for I had to do a couple of weeks or something because I didn't go to a court date. It's a long story, but long story short is when you have nothing to do, this is a great time to meditate, right?
Right.
But I find it very difficult to meditate in that sense because I'm an ADD poster child, so I squirrel out everywhere. And even in my own head, I squirrel out. Even my thoughts are that's what 37 Channels is about. It's about simultaneous thoughts and being aware of all of them. But I think that I've also, when I was in college, I had some experiences with mushrooms and acid and all that. But I also did them as a newbie, and then I did them with a professor of mine who actually went and a guide and with a purposeful goal of opening.
That's interesting. That's so.
And when if I do mushrooms or do things like that with that experience, we used to do it like this. There'd be a group of us that were all trusted each other. They were kind of intellectually and in that same realm of wanting the same thing. And then we'd go to a place where there was no distractions. And pre us taking it, we would have a bunch of errands to do. And some of them seem menial, listening to how long you can hear a bell. But they still use that as a form of focus. If you ring a bell and it's, because sound dissipates, but it's actually there for a long, long time. The vibration of sound, just like a wake, but maybe not audible to the human ear anymore, mostly because we only process 3 million of 5 million bits of information that we get on a given. So at one point, and not to go on a tangent, but I'll
so interested.
I was reading this thing about how American Indians and were when the first settlers were coming in here in the ships and stuff, and American Indians were right that they could only see the wakes of the boats, but they couldn't see the boats, even though they were there. And
what? That's
really true. Yeah. And how your brain works is there's 5. This is its processing power. So at one point, it's got to fill in the gaps, just like a micropixel of a photograph. You got a 16-bit picture. It's made out of bigger squares. So all of the detail in between is kind of filled in by your brain. So meaning,
wow, that's
if you don't know if something exists, if you don't know that it exists and you're not looking for it, and there you have no basis of comparison, your brain might just catalog it as a not important, and they'll fill in that. There's a show called Brain Games on television. You should check it out. How your brain works is pretty crazy, but just know that, it filters it out for you.
That brings me to something.
That's why awareness and enlightenment brings more vision.
That I've been dying to ask you the whole podcast, but we just now got on it.
Sure.
What I'm doing is I'm teaming up with this American Ghost Project is what they're called.
But I have a theory about ghosts. But I have had an experience where we were at my friend Anthony Esposito's studio, and there's a barn there, and there's like it's an old place, and other people were kind of doing this whole ghost hunt, and I'm kind of being a wise ass and be like, hey, tell that,
Right.
and for whatever reason they were getting flashlights to turn on and off on command by things, But I don't know if that was a conscious disembodied. I don't know if I believe in a disembodied conscious thing that is like, well, I wake up. What does a ghost do when it wakes up in the morning? Does it wake up in the morning? Does it have a cup of coffee? How come all of a sudden it is, there's just a lot. I believe that ghosts could be I believe that ghosts could be like just like when there's anything that traumatic or impactful in nature, it leaves a scar or echo.
See, okay. Here we go, because my whole thing is the analog tape theory, and that is
I believe that's more of a believable.
That
theory
is with the creator when he spun the earth into action and the time machine. Because here we are. This is like a playback head.
Right,
This is like a sync head right here for an analog machine. Me and you are in right now.
Exactly.
And sometimes when there's a murder or some tragic thing, the tape spikes.
Yeah, it spikes
and
so much so that it
always sees that. And that's my thing.
And when people measure energy coming out of us, you can tell when you create more energy. And there's this book called Celestine Prophecies, which is like a novel, but there's a really great thing that I learned from that book. And it was just
who wrote the book?
Robert Redfield, I think maybe. Something like that.
Okay.
But the thing that I do believe now is that humans need two types of food, okay? Our physical aspect needs food as we know it to maintain our physical body so that our body can sustain our consciousness. But our consciousness also has to feed, but that feeds on energy. And energy is by interaction and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that triggers, a hunch is a physical reaction to a non-physical thing, right? You get a hunch, you get a feeling physically, but there's no reason for that feeling other than, what I'm saying? So these things can kind of coexist. And I believe that ghosts, I've lost a lot of people that I loved so much. And I wouldn't say I lost them. I mean, we are in different places.
Right.
But I don't believe that there's that many people that have had so many attachments to humanity and people left here that there wouldn't be more success rate at them communicating or a will. I mean, if you want to go searching for shit with the pre-diagnosed intention that we're going to go ghost hunting, then you're hunting for a ghost, okay? But if you're going into something without anything, with no preconception, you could define that as something else. I would like to believe that if there's things as ghosts, I feel really bad.
And that's why I want to do this thing. And I don't even know if that we should even be mentioning that on here. But anyway,
who cares? That's like when people are like, "Hey, don't listen to my new song. It hasn't been released yet." Nobody's.
Yep. Well. Let me ask you.
But it's only in search for truth. It's really what we do.
So, because I'm super curious about your
theory
on. When we do die, is there a possibility that there are really spirits running around?
Well, let me ask
the question. I mean, I'm just curious because mine is so weird.
Well, then my question would be like, what? Take this out of it. What would be the actual purpose? Because I believe that existence needs necessity. There has to be a necessity for something to exist of some sort, right?
What if they feel like they didn't get through with what they were doing here on Earth?
What? It's they'll be like, I didn't get a fair shot. Let me go back. Does that make it?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
just curious, man.
I think if we had a choice to not die, I don't think any of us would go willingly. We just try to find things that make us more comfortable about it. But
you said a medium. So to me, a medium, because we had this.
A medium is someone who speaks to someone That's already
that's
passed.
That's on the other side. That's only in
Basically, she says there is no death, and I believe that, a lot of scientists say there is no such thing as time, and as we know it is a kind of a human construct. It's like, and that's probably the wrong word, but it's our way of measuring this thing that happens.
Right.
But we don't know what time, life, space, universe, anything. We don't know shit, really. Basically, we know a couple of things.
We have theories.
We know a couple of. We're like no better than a squirrel trying to get a nut, but in a grander scale. You know what I'm saying? All we know is that if we do this, that sometimes happens, and and we're very species. But the evolution itself of instinct, right, is self-awareness.
Right.
Don't you think?
I totally
If you
think.
keep on evolving, an instinct becomes so amazing that it becomes self-aware. You know you're alive. Now, the moment you know you're alive, is that the moment that you have a soul? Is the separation of human body a consciousness is consciousness created in here, or is it something that is non-physical that it coexists with a physical? That I could believe a little bit more, that we're two separate type of things, just like there's a lot of species on Earth that live with another species and are unaware really, but they need each other somehow to exist, whether it's a dung bee or whatever the it is. I can't really name an example, but what if there's two species, okay? There's the human species that is, it's got a brain capacity. It's got all the things we need. Like, I'm going to get that car because it's got 4x4. It's got a good intellect. It's got hands and everything. It can do all the things we want it to do, right?
Right.
And then there's a separate species, which is called the souls. And these are non-physical creatures that still retain consciousness and move in a non-physical space. But for them to be able to interact with physical space, they have to be symbiotic and attach themselves to a human or, to a host. What if you, who you believe and you look in the mirror, is really you're just looking at the body that you're hosting,
Right.
And that makes a little bit more sense, because it does not make sense that we are born, we acquire knowledge, we acquire this whole ability. We're not in the survival mode here. Like we're trying to find meanings of life where
We're in strive mode.
We're in like, what the is going on here?
Right. It's really
Nobody knows what the is going on. I don't think anybody on this planet knows.
Oh, I gotta have a cigarette.
Yeah.
You cool? Let's smoke.
Yeah.
Let's smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
This
is deep thinker stuff. Deep thinker stuff.
Bro, like
deep
all these
thinker
people
shit.
who are like have faith and say that this without a doubt, this is the only truth. I can't even take them as serious people, because even if they are right, because anybody who denies all other possibilities that are not proven by science and other reinforcing facts, those are people that are just like closed-minded and are the same people that that have basically stunted the growth of humanity. And
I don't. You know what? I think those people are brainwashed, and that's fine. It's
right,
just,
because bro, I've gone to the Creationism Museum, and
what mean?
There's a museum for people who believe in creationism. That only believe that existence. That Bill Nye did a whole theory of it. He actually Bill Nye the Science Guy actually kind of went against it, but it's basically a group of people that created a museum about the biblical how the humans came onto this earth in a somewhat scientific way, and they created a building, and it's a big thing, and it's Christians have a lot of money, they do. Religion has a lot of money, but I don't see anybody who says undeniably that this is the answer. And I know that nobody on this planet has the word. And that's one word in the Bible, or one thing in the Bible that I do believe. Is like, there's nobody on this planet who truly knows the will of the grander scale.
Right. The creator or whoever.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing. This is what I do believe. I believe that when you want something to happen, or you wish, you should say it out loud. Even if you look stupid, I don't care. Because something happens when you will and say something out loud that triggers sometimes that, quantum physics says that there's all eventualities.
God, I got so many questions to ask you, because your opinion. Okay, so do you feel, and I mean, I'm not joking.
I'm not joking either.
Do you feel like you're a master, one of the masters of, because you are a special person, like it or not? I'm
sure.
not bragging on you. I'm saying you're a very unique guy that has successful. That everybody, you're famous no matter what you say your name. You say
Right.
they know who the hell you are. Your household name. Okay, so let me ask you something. Do you feel like like me being raised out in the middle of the country in Missouri, had no chance at all ever becoming
Absolutely.
a producer? Do you think we made our reality?
I think
that
so.
that we,
I think so, because here's the thing. I believe in a little bit of like when you say you're a Pisces, you say you're a sign, right? You're like, oh, that's mumbo jumbo. But really, there's a unique thing that happens on every day of my birthday and your birthday, is that the same gravitational pull, radiation, all that shit that happened is exact and indigenous to that day. Now, maybe your personality is a little bit developed in the womb in its effect by the gravitational pull of all things. On March 7th, whatever that combination of things kind of is a little bit another ingredient in the soup that's happening in the womb that creates this tendency of being. I mean, I know all Pisces, almost all of them are like artistically like me, and people who believe in astrology believe it's kind of like that Pisces are old souls, and this is kind of before nirvana, which is nirvana is the completion of all the life cycles, and then you're in another state. I don't know that, but I do believe there's some scientific proof, just from my experience, that don't you ever find that when you meet people that you just connect with instantly, that they always tend to be these certain signs, But
I totally do.
So like with me, I'm almost prophetic to these people, because I'm like, this is, you're either one of these things, but you can definitely, I can call my own people out, the Pisces out there. I mean, we're all heart, and I think that in answering your question, when I was young and too dumb to know that I couldn't do music, meaning that the chances of that's like me believing. Do you think that you scratch the ticket? It's like music's even more difficult than winning a lottery.
It is.
Even to a smaller extent. So if you actually knew that going in,
I know it.
they'd be like, you'd never be able to do it.
I know,
because
I was just dumb enough not to know.
Exactly.
Ignorance is bliss, you know?
You're just like, like people come up to you and be like, I'm a producer, I'm an actor, I'm a rock star, and I'm going to own my own movie field. And like these actually end up being P. Diddy's and, that create these things. But they were kind of too dumb.
They're self-renowned.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Throughout that process, I mean, we believe humans have followed a lot of stupid people. I mean, you know what I'm saying? How the did people like Hitler convince all these motherfuckers to believe in this crazy thing?
The craziest shit.
How the fuck did that happen? Like, where?
I saw some shit.
That guy should have been in Vegas doing fucking like, hey, I'm hypnotizing. Like, how the fuck did that happen? But there is, ignorance that happens when most of us are around.
Do you feel that the ripple in the humanity happened at exactly the right time, and the right person saw the ripple?
For sure.
And he went, I can control this.
I don't know if they saw the ripple, but they just happened to be that ingredient on top of it. I think that he already had things that already happened to him. I mean, Hitler was a guy who had artistic backgrounds and had these. He was a normal person, as was Jesus, until.
It just makes me wonder, though, is there really such a thing as
I do believe that.
A silent acquiescence for millions, and everybody thinking the same thoughts at the same time?
Well, there actually was a scientific experiment, one done here in the United States, but one in Japan. And you guys can look it up. But one of them in Japan was, they had these 5 or 6 towers of distilled water, okay, in a public location. And they were all the same water, okay, came from the same place, and then in these towers, people were asked to go in there and project anger, project love, and project blah blah blah, and people went in there and did that. And after analyzing the water the molecular structure of how the water was is completely different.
Really?
Proven fact. Not like hearsay. Proof. They did one in Washington D.C. to eliminate crime. And they had 2,000, I think it was 2,000 people, and that year crime diminished by a beyond the chance. I don't want to misquote it, but I want to say it was 20%. You know, when crime goes
that's
down,
freaking crazy.
So I do believe that there is a power that happens when people sync up and will the same thing, because if we can manipulate our reality by if reality is all. You know, there's this movie called What to Believe Do We Know? It's about quantum physics, right? And basically what they say, long story short, is that all eventualities are happening at the same time. Every single fucking thing is happening right now. There's this part of me where we're laughing. There's a part of me where I'm not here. There's a part of me that are happening. And that the individual consciousness is the one that you're focused on. That becomes your reality. And it could be individual to the person. You know, meaning I could be a part of a made-up world that's created by you. You see... because you're picking that path.
Right. Okay. So, because I always ask my artists
But
this
if we all
crazy question.
sync-
This crazy question. Do you think, and I'm asking you
Yes.
a question, I know you've been to Japan, so that's part of your reality, but it's not mine, even though I have Oriental cousins. I'm wondering, though, to those people who, like me, who have not been there,
I don't think you need to be there because I think humanity is all things. But I think this is what...
do you think something's going on in Japan right now, is my question.
No, I think there's something going on globally. Human enlightenment is growing. And that's what the Bible talks about in the end of days. And
well,
how,
that's the whole simulation theory of mine. So
right.
never mind.
I mean, some people call it revelations. Other people call it simulation. Other people call it this. They could all be just the same story of the boy cried wolf, or there's some parable some other where. But I do believe that all of humanity has been based on civilization. We were created civilization, so we have the best chances of surviving. Therefore, we are scientifically up there. But had none of these buildings or technology been around, we would have developed our other senses, our ability to because people don't go to school to how to be humans. You know, they go to school.
They don't.
But they should. There should be a class on how to be humans because everybody has all the information they need right here.
Well, I need a class. I mean, I need a class on being a human because I'm not from this planet.
Yeah, me neither. I don't think that I am, but I could say that my theories of what's going on in this simulation, this world, this existence, is based on a lot more experience. And I've traveled all over the world. I've met everybody. You know, I've seen everything.
I know you have.
And to me, even people who most people that I know haven't been on a plane or have never left their state or their country. But like, if you go to a country that is like, non-Western, I mean, if you go to Europe for the first time, you're like, this is a whole fucking different world.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a fucking, but if you go to cultures, like Chinese cultures and like, even the Mayan and Anunnaki and what's, what's Mexico now, previous to the Incas, these are people that were like completely different than the Mexican culture now, but it's like
way ahead of what we probably can see.
And that have happened. That could happen.
Because I think the minds of people are that those people were savages, and okay, so
they were. I mean, we're savages. Humans are.
Oh God,
savages.
I know. I look at humans,
if people
like,
think
wow.
that humanity's evolved, they're highly mistaken. Because where there used to be a caveman who used to have the biggest cave so he could get the girl, now there's a guy who works to be rich so he can get more. It's all to get the girl. It's all to get the girl, but it's all to procreate.
Same thing. Same with
thing.
wars and everything.
Same
all
thing.
about it's all about women.
Same thing. It's all about women.
Women in power, but
it's about like our. It's about us thinking that we're in control of things, but they don't understand that behind that, as a universal species, our main focus is survival. All things that are alive try to stay alive.
Right.
So, and that's universal. So, I think that humans are savages, but the difference between humans and other animals is that we kill in a different way, like because we're strategical in that sense, or we kill based on opinions, lacks of opinions. But it's all, which is even worse, I think, honestly, because I think killing is a horrible thing, and honestly, if I had to actually kill the cow that I ate the steak with, I'd not. But I just like to imagine my little world that steaks come from a different place than cows, and they're already pre-cut.
Right. Same here, man.
Because I couldn't kill another, and I guess this shows that how much of a part of me is still a weak person. I don't think I have.
wouldn't say weak.
Because I don't think it's my right to take another life ever if I don't need to. And I truly can survive without that. But I also am arrogant as a human being enough to believe that my existence, being more evolved as a species, therefore gives me a little precedence. And then we justify it by going, well, Alan, those guys killed that. We're omnivores, And the reason why we survive so long is because we can eat a lot of different things. But now we don't need to eat a lot of different things. And, I love cows. They're cute. And I'm sure that they're not really aware. But I'm saying a cow will run from a fire because it does not want to die. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It might not know that you're killing it. And in that there's sense. But, man, you got to.
I don't really feel. I don't really think about all this stuff when I'm eating stuff.
Me neither. I don't think about it either because, or if I did, I wouldn't be able to eat it. But there are certain people who can't take that out of their consciousness. Like people will be like, "Oh, we've got to," this is a redneck part of me. It's like people are like, "Oh, well, we got to separate our trash and go this, and we got to take it to a disposal." I'm like, but it never leaves the planet. You know what I'm saying? Whether you stick your cup right here or you stick it right there, it's still on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
It's not going anywhere.
And I think out of the universal things, if I throw a fucking wrapper out the window, I don't think the ripple effect in 20 billion years is going to be like, had Hugo not thrown that wrapper out, that Milky Way wrapper then triggered,
Yeah, so-and-so wouldn't have went.
Yeah. But meaning, out of all the things I don't know in the totem pole, that's way down in there. Like, do cows care? That's like number 474-2. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I always ask this question to big artists like you that are super famous. Do you feel like my theory on it's not a question. I'll tell you my theory and see what you feel about it. The reason why even I made art to begin with, or recordings, is because I feel
self-fulfilling process.
I feel like that we feel that we are scared to die and we want to live on forever.
Okay, why I create music has nothing to do with why I'm terrified of dying.
Really?
They're completely separate.
I'm just saying,
but I am terrified.
Subconsciously, do you feel like that maybe there's something in you that wants to live forever?
No, I could care less. Honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not going to affect me, or maybe it will. But I do.
You're going to affect humanity from now to the time it ends.
To me, all I'm going to do is like, while I'm here, if I see a need, I'm going to fill a need. And that's for no other reason other than that's what type of consciousness and existence that I want to have right now. Right. I don't give a if people, the day I die, you could throw me off the back of a pickup truck on the side of the road. I could give two shits.
Yeah, I keep telling my old lady, bury me under a tree.
I don't even give a fuck. I don't even talk about that. I don't even go to funerals. I don't believe I believe funerals are stupid, traditional things of like, I don't want to remember somebody in a box. That's not what it's about. Their trip is done here. Like, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck what happens to the sneakers that you've been walking on? It doesn't affect anything. It's just like we got to pay our respects. Pay respects to people when they're around by treating them with respect and by giving them the due diligence.
Amen, brother.
Nobody gives a fuck about that eulogy. You and your eulogy. You are, I have to think of so many.
I'm right there
I've
with
gone
you.
to a funeral in over 20 years, and it's just because I've decided that that's not these people are not going to dictate how I love this person, because to me, it's all in here, and just who I am as a person. As much as I would love people to know my true self, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who they think I am, because at the end of the day, for better or for worse, I can't escape who I am. And I know, I'm fully aware that I'm these many things, but I do strive every day to be a better person, to have a little more courage and honestly to find answers, because I think that it's the hardest time in humanity to live in spiritually, because there's so many things disproving God. As
I think there's a lot proving him though.
Well, I'm just saying there is true, right? But I think that again, if you take it from a non-biased just like, do you believe that all science is true, or do you think that science could be true and wrong at the same time? Maybe physics, as we know it from humanity's source, but to me, I want to think that truth is can be explainable and told. Like if you saw something outside, right, and I saw something outside, and he saw something outside, and we were all describing it, it would be different. It wouldn't be based.
It would be, would it?
Because it's based on how you have to compare it. Like you've never seen a fucking spaceship, but you've seen the chariots. It's a golden chariot. You've never seen it, thrust coming out of a plane. It's golden fire. You've never seen it's a spiritual beings of light. These are you're comparing. How do you describe the color of red if you have no basis of comparison? Like, how would you describe somebody what the color of red is?
So
It's like orange, but like not really.
Right. So I think your point is you want to project the best version of yourself to as many people as you can.
Well, like, listen, I know,
and be kind and freaking love people.
I know that that I this is what I do believe. I believe that happiness is pretty easy to achieve, and this is what you got to do, people. No matter what, always do exactly what you want to do at any given point in time that makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy at any given. There's only one rule, and you can change your mind as many times as you want. The one rule is that it's not at the expense of others. If you're doing what makes you happy, who gives a fuck what the ingredients are, as long as it's not malice and killing and hurting other people to get there, right?
Right.
People always say, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to have a house." Nobody is like, "I want to be happy," and then whatever ingredients are that come with it. Because when you define wealth in a different way and success in a different way, as I did, as when I started. When I started, I was like, success is going to be me being the biggest fucking rock star, and when I realized that had nothing to do with that, then I realized that I have been successful for so long and been wealthy for so long in a way that is so much more of the ability of buying a $200,000. Because the things that I have, I always encourage people to catalog their life opposite of what humans do. Like, my job sucks, blah, 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 blah. But they never go, hey, I'm a healthy person. I have these things. They don't go from top to bottom. They always go from bottom to top. And therefore, but for the sake of all of us being here, it's already lucky. We're all fucking lucky to be here. And it is a privilege to live it, be in this moment with you and being aware that this moment is valuable.
Yeah,
and I try not to live in the past, and I do sometimes, or in the future, or in the wonder of everything. But fear is definitely a part of my everyday thoughts, because fear is like a warning signal that pain is coming ahead, and this thought of not existing is a terrifying thing.
It's a terrible.
Bro, I freak myself out all the fucking time.
There's energy. The energy has to be transferred somewhere, and that's what
that's
the
what
ghost thing. Is
well, I mean, that would define what people describe as heaven or hell. If all existence is like a battery created, and you're either the positive side of the battery or the negative side, energy can't be destroyed. It can only take on a new form. Then, if you're a dark energy or a negative form of energy, that's what it turns into. If you're a positive form.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting to think.
So heaven is basically the continuance of the energy that you create as a positive individual that works with balance, with a force, or whatever the people will call it. But people who are dark, and I've met. If there's our demons on earth, I've experienced meeting some people that were just like, man, I know you look like a human. But there is something that is chilling about you, and I've experienced that where I felt like that is not a real human. It was really terrifying, and like, it was crazy. I can't even describe it. Almost like it was in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, where I live, and I went through a lot of pain there. But I do believe that you can get engulfed by the dark side of existence,
right?
And that metamorph, turns you into something else. Like these stories, our favorite movies, are based on Christian parables. these stories have been told about a prophet and the sun in many different cultures and many different times in different ways. And it's because it's a formula that works. It's digestible for humans. And if you're the omnipotent power and you're like trying to explain to a bunch of babies, I know.
Yeah.
You got to make it kind of simple, but know that in a billion years, these people are going to evolve to know that it's a difference to decipher what the boy who cried wolf, that story could have been put in the Bible, right? And, and could have been easily, it's a story that tells you a moral. The moral of the story is what important is. But like, don't you believe that the Bible says these stories are
it's a book of morals.
Come on,
it's a book of stories.
So God is like, hey, kill your first son to prove. Man, that is crazy,
ridiculous.
That's crazy. It'd be like, oh yeah, man,
But I think that story was meant for the ultimate sacrifice. And then God said, no, you ain't got to do it.
But that's again a story created based on human standards. Be like, what are humans the most afraid of? Death. Okay, so if you really believe in God, you got to prove it by facing this greatest fear.
Well, I think it's a little. But man,
anybody who's smart, if you loved your kids, you wouldn't be like, hey, prove it by like going to that edge and jumping for Papa. Okay, just joking.
Okay,
that's cool.
I'll say this on the podcast because I don't care, and that way my son will know. My son, Isaac, is named Isaac for that exact reason because I had to marry his mother.
Right.
And because it was a big sacrifice. And it wasn't because I knew that it wasn't going to work, but I did it for him.
Right. You took the
I took the brunt of it because I loved him before he was born. But,
because you didn't know that you being happy is probably that
a little bit
more important than
him seeing dad happy, and then when now I'm happy and stuff. He loves his stepmother.
Yeah.
And and stuff like that, and we have family time all the time. We spend time together, and everything's great. But it wasn't so great when I was knowing that I had to do something, and I think that's why I named him Isaac. That and Isaac Hayes, was one of my biggest.
And kind of as a tribute. And even in my records, like there's a song called "Guiding Me," right? And I speak about religion very not literally.
You talk a lot about it.
But guiding me in particular is like. There's a point in my life where I thought I was not going to be around here for much longer, or I thought it could have been taken from me.
There was a point in your life that I thought you weren't going to be around here much longer.
But it was for a different reason because I was fully unaware that I was out of control in that sense. But that's because it was part. But it was never in my plan. And but the thing is, sometimes the belief that there are aliens so unbelievable, but as the belief as there is an omnipotent God who one day decided to create humanity and blah, 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 and that's its only project, and this is it. But so many things that are real right now are so unbelievable. I mean, just look at the things that happen. Just when you go see the Northern Lights, right? And
I've seen them, yeah.
Bro, like when you're there, you're like, how the is this happening? It seems so
unreal. How
about all the creatures they discovered in the oceans, which is really the majority of the planet? We're like the little minority, right? The land people. But like these creatures are beyond any scientific sci-fi thing that you could create. I mean, nature is so complex.
Like an octopus. I mean,
it's incredible.
It's like what the happened there? I mean, what part of freaking evolution did that guy?
But at the same time, you got to be like, okay, so what was before everything? Okay, it's our Big Bang theory, which seems like a lack of a better answer, right? Because there has to be a before everything. There has to be a before. Is it always been in existence? Always
I love it because you're asking the questions I ask while I sit in this room trying to make things sound good.
Be. Because that's why time doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't. Time really doesn't exist outside of the Earth. I mean, the only thing is the sun goes down.
But it does exist outside of the Earth because the planets evolve and they go through
revolve around the freaking the galaxy.
But like time could be something that's also fabricated by us as a part of these things that we need to survive. So we need to know that these basic rules. Because I definitely believe we have more than 5 senses. It seems very, very
Obvious.
Yeah, it's like that's like saying hey, you're made of 5 crayons and that's it. I'm like, bro, I don't know about you, but I know there's more senses in my body.
Right.
But you don't pay attention to them, the hunches, and how do you define?
Well, you never answered the one question I asked you about the prodigy musician that obviously was brought here or born to do what you do, and that's the thing is like, am I a natural born producer? I feel like
Bro, the thing
I
is,
am, but
everybody can be either a leader and someone that people follow, and also be a student at the same time, because everybody.
Oh, I totally agree.
And I believe that there are people that I've often thought about writing a book just based on these stories that people write to me that are like literally. I sometimes sit down and I'm reading these letters and they're like bringing tears to my eyes because, man, I can honestly say that every song that I've ever written came from the realest fucking place. And most of the times I wish I'd never wrote that song because I wish I had never had to tell that story. But then when I disengage from it, I make that song, and years later I'll listen to a record, I feel bad for that person and not realizing that it's me, because I know how it saved a lot of people.
I totally agree.
Or at least they give me credit for it, or it was part of it, or it was like, and for that's why I have some sort of responsibility to, I don't believe that I did that, and I believe that they believe that, but it was just, this thing is bigger than us. And
do you feel that your songs come from the inside in your heart, or do you? I believe songs are floating through the air.
If I had a choice, I would like to explain, just like this conversation of like, on this last record, it's called "Sum of All Things," which is basically saying, okay, here I am, I'm this age, this is what I know about all of this, this is what I've learned,
right?
And to me, when you're, people who are non-artistic or non-expressive are trying to get that birthday card or that first card, they're trying to find an artistic medium to explain the way that they feel because they don't have the skill set or vocabulary or emotional
or the right brain
to express to somebody. Don't just be like, I love you. Like my dad was a tough guy like that, now, but he would sit down and be like, son, you are the most. He was just a guy that I know loved me, okay? And now, in his older age, he's a little sweeter. But, that's why when they find a song that is just like, I've been searching for an answer of how exactly I see. And then sometimes you create a song that is just perfect to this one person. And Morning, for example, which is like a song that we have, and even though I wrote it about a different subject, but like in some songs, I'll write ambiguously enough where you can insert your own character in there. And it's written like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, where at the end, who are you? Are you the wolf? Are you, where you can interject. But it's about, an experience that I've had. And to me, when you have a lot of pain, for it to not stay on your shoulders, you have to either write it in a notebook and then throw it away. Or in my case, I put it in a song. And then after that experience no longer lives in me and it lives in the song, and it's a way of me letting go of those things, so I don't carry it, because I used to carry a lot of a lot of pain with me, because I would let people's reactions to my actions affect me, and I'm only responsible for my actions to existence. How people react to that in a negative way is something that I can't carry on my shoulders anymore. Right. Because when you first make a couple of bucks, it's like the movie Jerk. When Steve, I was that guy. It was like, what, cat juggling? Let's write a check for 20,000. And anybody with a fucking sob story, I gave all of my money away, and I don't really give a fuck about the money, but I gave a fuck about that I was manipulated, and that they took something and they didn't do something with it, and they didn't. And I was like, that doesn't change. Like, I feel sad for people that me over in that sense, or themselves over, because I'm like, man, you fucking this could have been your one.
But you still gotta love those people, man.
And I do love them, unless, of course, and I love all people. I don't hate anyone, but it's so to me for when I never grew up with a parent that yelled at his wife or disrespected, or those things were a normal thing. So when I was in relationships, when I got into a setting like that, the option of like backhanding a woman
was never an option,
or calling her fucking bitch, or that was not even in my realm of like possible. Oh, you could do that, because it wasn't even an option that I really saw. And even on television, I saw it as like, oh, that ain't real, because I'm like, who the does that?
Right.
Who the grabs a puppy and punches him on YouTube? I'm like, who the does that? Somebody who's twisted. So, I was very fortunate. The wealthiest and most rock star shit about me is this. Man, whatever reason, I grew up having the most perfect example of unconditional love to me. And my parents, even now, and my brother, they are the most pain is in the asses and everything and all these things, but that how they have somehow made it through this crazy thing and showed this kid who would could have been an idiot. I wouldn't have known, because in my head, my parents instilled in me that I really could accomplish anything.
That's the way my parents were,
and that's why I believed it. I was like, my dad told me that I could be anything I fucking want to be.
That's what my
and here I fucking am. And I remember when I got my record deal, I was in New York City, and I finally signed this deal. It's choking me up.
You're good, man.
But it was like the first call I made was to my dad, and I wanted him to know how all those times that he'd say that and he thought it would just brush off.
You're good, man.
That it really was true. That was my only approval. So to me, I think with love, all things are possible, because I wanted to show that love back to them, and that was my driving force is my driving force every day to succeed. Is I want them to know how much I love them, and that I would go through anything to prove to them. And to me, more important than ever being a rock star or a famous person is who I was when I was there. And one thing I could say about this, and all my fans will say this true, is that I never disregard a person. I will walk out on every stage, no matter who it is, and I will show them that there is a person behind the cloak, and it's just a normal person who's really, really grateful that you spent that money, because I only live.
You're an amazing human, man.
I mean, I don't know that I'm amazing, but anything that is
you
good,
are. You're very
good
unique.
about me is because
you
I
are an uncommon man around uncommon people. And man, I want to thank you, man. We've had a great podcast, man.
Yeah.
Dude. And I just want
first
to tell
time
you,
I've ever choked up in real life.
No, but you don't understand. What I picture, you've always treated me so awesome. I remember when you picked me to produce some stuff on you. You said, I feel like me and you have never got really the
We never have. We never
the real freaking respect that we deserve.
And my fear always when I was a kid is my dad. And my dad is a great visual artist. He's a great painter and everything, just like my brother is. And he's a great musician too. My first experience with music is my dad turning the accordion around.
That's awesome.
But the thing is, I also remember all these great artists dying poor. Every influential artist. There's very few that have a happy ending. And to me, that's how I learned how to be happy. Is you have to redefine the parameters of what actually is happiness and success and wealth, because it's certainly not this.
Right.
And just to go a step further, to go back to the Beatles, which I'm not the most huge fan but I'll tell you one thing. Before we had all these forms of capturing ideas, the Beatles wrote great songs because they had no way of remembering them unless they were good. So they were driving down the bus, and the next day they'd be like, remember that song? And be like, no, because we didn't record it. We were like, why not? Because we don't have a recorder.
Right.
So these people wrote these songs. But so I think that, with every generation is their strengths, and I think that the youth of today has strengths in like acceptance. You know, transgender, gay, racist. That is not affecting these people as it was when I was in school, where people were a little bit outcast for being a little bit different, and how that really affects you. But to me, I was always me, and my people out there, they need to find what drives them. And with me, it's just, you know, I had
dude,
great
thank
parents.
you, man.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
My
you
next
for
show, I make a great tuna tartare.
but you know, hey, listen, a lot more serious podcast than I thought, which I love it.
Yeah.
But man, thank you for making the music you have to change the world, because you changed the world and you caused a big ripple in the whole thing.
Well, the best is yet to come, and shit's still coming, you know. But the thing is, you know, do what you love, and everything else will come.
And let's work on our Christmas record right now.
That's right.
Thank you guys for watching, man, and subscribe to us, because we really, really have we got Hugo's.
Yeah, follow us on my Instagram, Tantric Hugo, and then Tantric Official, and then, you know, listen, if you love something, support it and feed it with water so it can grow.
Awesome,
Go to
man.
some
Thank
shows.
you, man.
All right, bye-bye.